Zimmerman promised you wouldn't snow in West Virginia when he hired you? No?
It's a very light snow. Dustings, I think is what he called it.
So how does this team handle success? You saw success in the Bahamas. Attitude-wise, how have they done? What do you thought of how they've handled success and not let it get to their head?
I think they've done a good job with it. This group stays pretty grounded. And they're pretty workmanlike. They just, get done with the game. We go to the next game and focus on that scout, and they play or they stay pretty single focused on kind of just the next opponent.
What do you see out of Oklahoma State? What's the scout look like on them?
They're very aggressive, especially defensively. They create a lot of turnovers because of their aggressiveness, and then they do a great job of getting the rim and drawing fouls. And they play to those strengths. They attack and transition every single possession, make or miss.
Things that starts coming up in this common area is guys going against previous teams and playing. Obviously, you had Joseph at Kansas. You're going to have Javon in this one. Do they talk about that any? Do you hear that? Do you mention it any, or is it just another game?
I'm sure it has a little added significance for them personally, but I think Joe and Javon, in this case, they're both like they're ready to go out and compete and play, and I'm sure it means a little more. It was a school that you previously attended, but outside of that, there's not a lot of guys from both squads that they played with. So there's a few guys that are still left from the Oklahoma State team that Javon's friends with, but outside of that, I know it's about trying to win the game.
Just kind of wondering, on the trip back from Kansas, did you happen to find a cure for cancer or anything? I asked that jokingly, but obviously the feedback you've gotten since that win, there's got to be just high praise. You haven't even been here for a year yet. How do you handle that? How do you live up to that, I guess? How does one guy handle that?
Again, I think even from a coach's perspective, like, we understand that was just one game. It was one 40-minute game. We appreciate what that win or how hard that win is to get in Allen Fieldhouse for sure. We're not taking away from that by any means, but we also know that was great. That was a great moment for us, but we have a new task at hand, and we turned that page pretty quickly. We enjoyed it, for the appropriate amount of time, but then now we got another Big 12 opponent coming in a couple of days. So in basketball, you don't get much time to celebrate. You got to move on pretty quickly, win or lose. You just can't hang on to it very long.
Doesn't that stink? The fact that you're right. You only get maybe 24 hours sometimes. Doesn't that suck?
It's the job. That's part of it. Hopefully after the season you can look back and reflect on it and appreciate it a lot more. But I think, again, from a coach's perspective, in a sport like basketball where you're playing every 3 days, that's just you have to have that, I guess, that discipline to move on. And again, like I said, sometimes that's after losses. Like you can't hang on to those very long either, because it can impact your next scout and preparation. So for us, great moment, great win. Incredibly proud of the guys for it. But now we got to try and replicate it again.
How do you learn that lesson that you can't revel in success or kick yourself in the ass over losses?
I worked for some great guys along the way, Coach Altman and Coach McDermott. I thought one of the things I always appreciated about them was their consistency of not getting too high or too low, and kind of approaching each day the same. After losses, you might have maybe a little more edge to you to try to get back on that winning track. But I think overall you have to kind of have that mindset because. The seasons are long, they're hard, there's some ups and downs within those seasons, and I think that's the best way to try to avoid, going through big droughts is making sure you can stay focused on the task at hand, because I think your players feed off of that too, and they can feel that and sense that.
How do you celebrate, though? I mean, how do you celebrate yourself when you give yourself time to say, hey, that was pretty good beating Kansas?
Not maybe after the season. I don't know. I think it's again, it's a great win. We're excited about it. Pumped for the team. Hopefully, it continues to build some confidence within the team. But outside of that, it's us just trying to do our job.
It sounds like, I mean, despite the celebration everybody wants, you were already finding things that you did wrong in that game. I heard you talk a couple times. Offensively, we didn't do this. We could have done this better. Is that just the coach? And how could you have done things better? What areas were you lacking?
Yeah, I thought the first 25 minutes or so defensively we were pretty good. We got them to take the shots we wanted them to take. Offensively, I thought we were executing very well. Now, part of the game plan was going to lead to some bad possessions because we wanted long possessions, and we were willing to live with, hey, we're going to be at the end of the clock, and it's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we got to get it just something up at the rim. But we did not want that game to be a fast possession game and free flowing. We just didn't think that was the right strategy to go into Allen Fieldhouse and try to play the way they're most comfortable. So, as the second half went on, I thought some of that we got a little stagnant with it, and we ended up with a lot of those type of possessions where we're having to get something up at the rim late. We didn't get some of the cleaner opportunities we were getting early in the game, and that was a lot of it to credit to Kansas, and they made some adjustments as well. So, but that's the flow piece we got to continue to get better at offensively. We've kind of battled it all year, to be honest, where we go through 3-4 minute scoring droughts, and that's the I think the main thing as a staff right now. We're trying to figure out how can we eliminate those stretches a little bit better.
I think I saw Jaden was kind of like maybe warming up a little bit before that game. See, maybe getting closer, or do you have any?
Yeah, I think everybody's getting closer. I mean, that's we're doing everything we can to get everybody back on the floor as soon as possible. So we're getting closer.
Or is he still kind of dealing with the?
Everybody's getting closer.
When you were looking at Eduardo, as a transfer's potential to come in here, did you see the potential for the things he was able to do against Kansas? I mean, we're talking in the preseason about defense, playing at the rim, those kind of things, but his ability passing, putting the ball on the floor once or twice, all that was kind of the difference in the game.
Yeah, he's been terrific. I mean, I hope he doesn't get mad at me about this, but I think one of our first live 5-on-5 scrimmages in June, I think he had 1 assist and 17 turnovers in that scrimmage, and the progress he's made from them until now, just how comfortable he is and how hard he's been putting a lot of time into his game, and I mean, he's impacting the game in a very big way in a lot of different areas in our pick and roll game. Then defensively, like his timing, blocking shots and stuff has really made an impact for us. His physicality's really improved. I think he's doing a nice job there. So, I love where he's at. Yeah, he's gaining in confidence too. You can see it on the floor. He's playing, with a little bit of swagger to him right now, and that's fun to see.
Did you see that potential when you were looking at him, looking at his film and saying, hey, are we going to try to bring him in?
Yeah, I mean, at the time we needed size, on this roster, and he was someone out there that had produced, he was certainly someone that we felt he could come in and play a role. We didn't know what that would be for sure, but he's certainly taken advantage of the opportunity he's gotten.
Can I try one more on Stone? It sounds like he's practicing. That's progress, right? Like, how long has he been able to be a part of you all preparing for games, whether he's part of them or not?
Yeah, he's like I said, he's made strides, and he's getting closer and closer to getting to that point. So, we'll just have to wait and see kind of what that means.
And then when you're I don't know, having someone cut up the film, or when you're sitting down to watch it with the team, I imagine they're all pretty excited to look at highlights and all that. Do you do any differently after a win or a loss to kind of guide it the way you want it to go, or is every post game the exact same?
No, I think we definitely try to guide it. I mean, there's sometimes there's opportunities after wins where maybe you can show a few more of the mistakes because they're more willing to see them. And sometimes after a loss, the last thing, sometimes you need to show them why it happened, but there's also sometimes where you don't need to beat them up anymore. So let's find something else to focus on and move on. So I think it's a little bit of a feel thing from us as coaches as to kind of what do we want that film session to look like the day after, and then maybe even 2 days after. Sometimes you can just delay it a little bit and now point out some of the things you got to correct as quickly as possible.
How did this one go?
It was. We showed them a few positives, but we wanted to focus a little bit more on here's some things that we needed to do better. Just because you'd have to turn that page, as you mentioned. There's a lot of people telling them, patting them on the back right now, and that's great. But we also want them to know that hey, there's a lot of things we can still get better at too, and to make that a little bit of our focus as we head into this home game on Saturday.
Past ties with Oklahoma State's coach, you know him, right?
Yeah, him and I worked together at Creighton. So when Coach McDermott got the job, he was part of that original staff. We were in that original staff together.
So do you see stuff that he runs that you recognize from back in the day?
Yeah, there's a few things that he does. He also picked up, he runs a little bit of stuff from his time at Purdue, and then some things that he's picked up and is running on his own. But there's some similarities with some of the things they do for sure. I think the biggest thing is he tries to play with pace, and that was a huge part of how Coach McDermott likes to play. So you can definitely see that imprint there.
How much have you changed what you do from what you saw McDermott do at Creighton or Altman or whomever? Are you different? Or are you very similar?
I think you kind of be your own person to a degree, but you also try to take as much stuff as you can from them. They're two really, really good coaches. So, I've tried to steal as many things as possible on both ends of the floor, and then, kind of put it to your own style. But they're two of the best to try to take from.
Kind of stressed since the beginning of the year that this was going to be a team that had to kind of do things a certain way and play a certain style in order to be successful. How much more is that magnified now with the roster and the current state that it is? I'm sure that becomes even more of a stress point.
Yeah, there's. I think there's no question. We have some limitations. We understand that. We know what our margin of error is. Anytime you have guys out, your margin gets even smaller. So we know what we have to do to be successful, and if we don't do those things on any given night, we're probably not going to be. So we got to continue to make that our number one priority every day in practice, and then heading into games. This is how we have to win, and if we do these things, we'll give ourselves a chance. And but there's not much variation that can take place for us to have a chance to be successful.
How do you envision Toby as a player and his role on this team? I mean, how have you envisioned it, and how has he filled it?
I think Toby's done a great job. He's I think he's really learning how to become a cutter and finding ways to utilize different ways that people guard him, different ways that people guard other people. He's become a great cutter and a great screener, which has also freed him up a pretty good amount too. And he's finding ways now to kind of get himself around the rim at times where he can get maybe a dump off for a layup or an offensive rebound as well. So he's done a really nice job, I thought. And it took a while, like all guys, figuring out where do you fit in and how do you best utilize him. And I'm really happy with the progress he's made.
Last 2 games, Mercyhurst kind of slowed it down on you guys. You kind of slowed it down at Kansas. You mentioned trying to avoid some of those 4-minute scoring droughts. Is there a parallel maybe between the pace of the game and some of those droughts? Or?
Yeah, certainly could be. I mean, Mercyhurst was just what they did defensively was a little bit unique with kind of switching 5 ways and a little more random, and then Amani being that was out in that first minute kind of threw us for maybe a loop a little bit too. But I think it's been kind of all year long though, to be honest with you, on the offensive side. We've had those droughts in all different styles of games where we'd go 3-4 minutes without a basket. So I think it's just a little bit to do with some of our movement and things. At times we can get maybe even get a little tired on the offensive end because we do expend a lot of energy on the defensive end that we can stand a little bit, and that's just something we got to get better at. Just even little subtle movements sometimes can help your offense out. So those are things we continue to focus on and find ways to do it. And trying to still keep the pieces all in the right places at the same time.
Jonathan Powell, and I'm guessing he's probably, 18 or 17, 18, and the way he played in Canada, he obviously didn't go in there scared. I'm wondering if there's any kind of story behind that, or maybe that's just who he is.
Yeah, I thought he did a really good job. I mean, there are times where, like a lot of freshmen, he can get a little sped up and anxious, and our whole focus with him going into that game was just slow down. And I thought he did an unbelievable job of he had a couple of drives that he really just kind of, took his time, got to a spot, was kind of slow and powerful with it, and was able to make a play. But I never felt like he was rushed, and that I think says a lot about him and a credit to him. There's, I think him hitting his first three helped him, relax a little bit too. But yeah, he played really well. Both the freshmen I thought played really well to be in that environment.
You hear the saying sometimes, well, they're too young to realize what the situation is. Is that
maybe?
true? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they both played with incredible poise. That was impressive.
Do you have a bad weather plan for home games, like coaches with 4-wheel drives go pick people up? I mean, you're in Des Moines. It's not like you're immune to snow. Do you have something that's, hey, kid can't get here, we got to go get him? How do you handle that?
I don't know if we have a bad weather plan. I don't know. I might call it, you got a snowmobile or something, we can go get guys picked up. But yeah, I mean, we'll look at it and see. Hopefully everything's cleared off by tomorrow, and we'll be in good shape.
Snowmobiles in West Virginia as Iowa.
No.
So.
Thank you all.